Hi,
Welcome.
Welcome, Sarah. Welcome to Shine Central Coast.
Welcome to my Life and Love headquarters.
Yes, so super exciting. I love the vibrancy of the colour in here.
Thank you. I have everyone colour.
Yes.
I think.
Why? So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks, Sarah.
My pleasure.
Maybe we just straight start with you tell the audience a little bit in your own words what you're doing, because you're doing so amazing work.
Okay, where to start? Well, a lot of people on the coast probably know me as a celebrant. Yeah, celebrant for almost 14 years. I really have a style of celebrancy that's very holistic and boutique. And I'm also a marriage therapist.
Ooh,
So both sides of the spectrum of love. I do love and relationship coaching as well, marriage mentoring. And I'm a funeral director, so I'm a bespoke funeral director, and I work in end-of-life consulting as well. So a couple of years ago, for many years, I was also a chaplain at Gosford Hospital, providing non-religious spiritual chaplaincy. So I have a real passion for end-of-life and rituals and ceremony and love and relationships.
I love that. I love the fact that you don't not just be a celebrant, but you actually keep working with the people, with the couples, if they have any trouble along the way, which kind of happens along the way usually.
Well, it's been a lovely evolution where, you know, there's been couples who I have married from quite a while ago now who, when they have encountered bumps and changes and crises in their life, have trusted me to come back and just, you know, get the support, get the upskilling, get the nudge into that next phase in their relationship with more resources and capacity to then, you know, go forth in love and explore that more again.
So how did you get into this? Yeah. Like, what was the shift in your life that...
Into celebrancy?
In celebrations of life.
It's really strange. I think it's interesting how life always sort of, on reflection and when you kind of look through the lens of hindsight, follows a spiral or a circle. You never really move too far away from your core passions and your core kind of calling and path. And when I was at university, I studied anthropology, social anthropology and psychology, and for a while there I was really sort of thinking I'd be on a path to be an anthropologist, and I was starting my honours year at uni. You know, I was still really young there, and I had no idea where this was going to lead me. Oh, I don't know, early 20s by then, really early 20s. No idea. And I'd been at university long enough, and I was just itching to just sort of get out there and get into it, and I left. I didn't finish my honours year, and I totally took a random right turn and went into PR and communications, and then sort of upskilled and trained into that area, and I got my master's degree in communications, and I went totally consulting and real corporate.
Imagine.
I know.
Hair tied back.
No, I could never quite go that far. And so I kind of felt like I had departed from that for quite a while. But you know how, I mean, you girls circle and you have your sister circle and you have your spiritual practice. I kind of always sort of had that brewing and bubbling away in my private life and in secret. And I remember, you know, I wrote my marriage ceremony and I did my first son's naming ceremony, and then
you wrote your own.
Yeah, I obviously didn't perform it because I had a celebrant who didn't offer me anything. It was just sort of like there was no
I love that.
no kind of craft in that, creating the rite of passage. And I had training in that. I had years of university understanding what the role of rites of passage do at times of transformation and in your personal growth and evolution and pathway in life. And my marriage and my wedding was a significant rite of passage, and I just sort of was not getting any guidance or direction or leadership from my celebrant in creating this special ritual, and I just sort of took charge, wrote it, and then gave it back and went, do this.
Wow.
And you know, and then I did my kids' naming ceremonies, and then, you know, did naming ceremonies for my friends' kids, and it was always sort of just there. And the pathway kind of converged when I had a very dramatic and traumatic second pregnancy with my son Rory, and it really just on a cellular level changed me. I couldn't go back fully into the very demanding corporate environment I was in. I was in many ways a little bit broken and had to rebuild myself in a different way, and I suppose when that's all of that stuff that was there that I knew as resource, and the richness of life just started coming back to me, and I took advantage of that year of maternity leave with Rory to get my celebrancy ticket.
What did you do when you were bored with a little one?
I know. I went to my first celebrancy conference in 2002 with breastfeeding Rory. I can remember that. I met the amazing Dali Messenger and a couple of core celebrant friends that are still just part of a rich circle of amazing, inspiring women. One of which is Victoria Spence, who is you know, just a great mentor and leader in the end of life and funeral space. And so I began transitioning into becoming a celebrant. I got fully licensed. You had to wait a long time then, in 2005 in September, and began building my celebrancy business. And in fact, before I ever got licensed to do weddings, I was doing funerals.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the very first funeral I did was a sadly and really profoundly, a woman rang me and said, "Do you do namings?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she said, "Would you do a naming as part of a memorial funeral for our baby we lost?" So the very first ceremony I really kind of did in that end of life space was for a baby. And so I learned very quickly in my ceremony craft and meeting my couples and my families that there was a lot of education to do to invite and permit people to really harness the richness of what a rite of passage and a ceremony can do for them. You know, and so I've noticed over the last 15 years in you know, just the general celebrancy movement, there's been such a shifting of the dial into real full rich ceremony knowledge and craft and skill, which is great. But I also noticed that for me to really serve people well, I needed to upskill. I needed to train in more skills, and at the same time, as I was sort of moving into the rich and lovely, jubbly fizz joy of everyone's weddings, I was going through a little bit of a relationship marriage crisis with my husband, and it was you know, life always brings you these things up in contrast and demands you to meet them in authenticity, and I had to kind of full frontal confront the challenges and the difficulties in our relationship. You know, we had 2 young kids, we were under financial stress, we'd moved out of Sydney up to the coast. We were still quite isolated and lost, and I was travelling back and forth to Sydney, and Andrew was too. And you know, it suddenly hit us that no matter how much we loved each other, we didn't have the skills and resources to really thrive in our marriage, and that was very scary to me, because there was one point where I thought, oh, I don't know, I love you, but I don't know if I can be with you, though. I don't know how to be in this marriage. So a whole bunch of things were happening where I skilled up in my therapy work. I retrained into coaching and counselling. I then acquired skills in grief and bereavement counselling as well, and my marriage therapy training. And you know, that's a progression of many years. But I had to get my marriage right, and then I realised that all these couples are coming to me to get married, and I felt, and still do feel, a really profound duty of care to prepare people for marriage. I mean, it still means lifelong in most people's sense of meaning, and that's really bloody hard to do.
What I really like, when we had like an initial conversation with you, and I met you for the first time, after we had that chat, I went home and I looked up my vows.
Yes.
Because I really loved how you said like how important it is, and that it's actually like an oath. It's like it's not something that you just make up. Even if you just make it up, just revisit those
I know,
words.
but if you said them, and I remember from my, I don't know where, but Carolyn Mace, you know, the Entering the Castle, Sacred Contract, she's a really amazing spiritual leader and mystic, and I remember reading something where she said the difference between a promise and a vow is that you need to be prepared for a vow to change the course of your life.
Beautiful.
And it really does.
It does.
You know, when you stand up and make those marriage vows, whether you just pluck them out of a book, or you like the sound of them off scrolling through the internet, or you write with conscious volition and choice what you want to say to each other, they are life altering. Before you say them, you're not married, and after you say them, you do. And that's what a rite of passage does. It takes you through a gate to a new way of being that you can never return back from.
Oh, that's so powerful. Because I think we are crying out for more ritual in our lives, and we don't know how to facilitate or verbalise or use certain words to cement that in our own lives, where it's marriage or death, or if someone passes away, to support someone else. So what would you do? What are the tips, particularly with your marriage? What did you do to
Well, I have a framework which I developed sort of in retrospect after looking at what I did do. I read a lot, I prayed a lot, I cried a lot, I talked to wise people, you know, and I had to work on myself first. So there's a pathway or a framework of work that I take my couples through, and it's me, and then it's we, and then it's everything else. So you have first accountability and ownership to be your most fully self-expressed, resourced, well person you can be. It's your responsibility and job to own your feelings and own your happiness and own your choices and decisions and be your authentic self. That's like number one. And I think, you know, I look back when we were having our challenges, and I totally didn't know who I was, what I was doing. You know, I wasn't happy, all that kind of stuff, and the projection onto it being Andrew's fault or that something was wrong with our marriage was really misguided.
I mean, we look to the externals, don't we, not the internals.
Yeah. So rather than outside in, it's inside out. And then what's I think's a really novel concept in today's people, which I really want to remind people of, is that in relationship you commit to another person. You know, when you marry someone, you are their new next of kin. You create your family of creation. They're your most priority person, right? You know, so the agreement. So this is what happens in your vows and in the kind of creation of the we or the us or the marriage. In those vows, what you're actually saying is you're making the agreements of the environment of your we, of your relationship. I will promise this, I'll do that, we will, together we will, you know.
You become one in a way.
Yeah, so you kind of, well, in that we, that is a one, right? There's two individuals inside the next layer of the circle out, which is a we. And so it's recognizing that there's someone else you need to take into account, that you need to know and understand which decisions and behaviours have effect on the other. You've got to tune into each other and tune into yourself and gift yourself to them and receive the gifts that they bring to you. You need to own that environment within which you're in and work on it all the time. You've got to keep the toxins out and bring the good nutrients in. You know, and so that's the next level of energy expenditure. You begin with yourself, and then you take care of your relationship environment, and that doesn't have to completely consume your energy and your day and what you do, but it should give you direction on what the first priorities are.
Yeah, beautiful. And
then everything else follows from that. Yeah, so I have an A game that I teach my couples, and it's all sorts of A's about agreements and being authentic and adapting. You know, so as you grow, as your relationship grows, as you go into new phases and challenges and opportunities and changes, you've got to develop and upskill. Yeah. You know, it's so obvious to people that over the course of a lifetime of a career, they continue to skill and develop professionally and gain new knowledge. And I don't understand why people don't realise that they've got to do that for their relationships as well. Yeah. You've got to skill up. The longer you are together, the more skill is required, because the complexity and the depth and the kind of richness of the relationship depends on it. And so, but it's not hard work. It's just knowing,
being aware
and
prioritising
and learning how you need to meet your partner's needs and desires, and then learning how to meet yours and how to adapt into the different environment and stages of your life, and you're off and running.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially the word adapt, because what I got is that you moved to the Central Coast and then so many things changed, so it was a massive change for you as a family, your relationship. Exactly, plus you changed as well. You changed careers and everything. So many changes happened.
I know. So lots of changes happen, but intrinsically you don't have to change. You don't want to. But you adapt skills. You grow yourself. You know, relationships are people growing endeavours.
I love that.
We grow.
Yeah.
And ideally we grow together, and we grow with each other, and we grow each other.
Yes.
You know, it's
from a positive point of view. It's not I want to change this because I don't like it. It's like, hang on, I see this spark in you. Can you just let this shine a bit more? Can you just don't you see it and just encourage each other to keep growing?
Yeah.
So what does the Central Coast today mean to you?
Oh, it's home.
It's home.
It's the best place ever. I really feel the Central Coast is home. The Central Coast is beach.
Yes.
And ocean for me. The Central Coast is for me a really rich community of creative and amazing people. And yes, when my kids have grown up and gone to school, and I just love it. I spend a good amount of time connecting back into Sydney, where I'm from, and the northern beaches where my mum still is. And every time I kind of come down that dip and cross the Hawke's Creek, I'm like, wow.
Such a breeze.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I love it.
How long ago, when did you move here?
2001.
Okay. And when did it feel like home? Did it straight feel like, whoa, this is home? Or
It took a few years, and I think when the boys were really sort of embedded into school and sports and friends started to, and we found our mob. That took a little longer actually, just really connecting into the people who were your mob and tribe. It took a few years.
But now it's home.
Yeah, it really
What's
is.
your favourite spot?
I've got a couple.
Are you allowed to disclose?
Pick the one you like to share.
Well, I'm going to just have to mirror Helen and Carolyn because that Whale Rock is our sister circle sacred site.
Okay.
And I did their ceremonies for their vow renewals and their weddings, and I had mine there as well last year. So Andrew and I have been married 22 years now, but we have a tradition where every 7 years we remarry.
Why 7?
Well, because leading up to the 7th wedding anniversary, Andrew for a few days lost his wedding ring in the sand down at a South Coast holiday we were having. And on the last day, my girlfriend and I went back to the place where he'd lost his ring to try and find it for the last time.
Wow.
And we asked the spirits and the Aboriginal owners of the land to give the ring back to us. And my girlfriend got her thumb and went, "Oh, Sarah!" And went like this in the sand, and the ring. Seriously, we got the ring back. The Aboriginal spirits gave us the ring back. We'd gone back each day and couldn't find it. It was 4 days since the day Andrew first lost it. And we'd been doing, circular grids, and we went to back,
She just went in just like that.
And so we went back to the house we were staying at, giggling little girls we were, and I picked a bunch of posy of flowers, and I put the ring inside the posy of flowers, and I went back and I proposed to Andrew again and gave him the ring. But because in the meantime we thought, it's our wedding anniversary next week, and you don't have a ring. We'll have to have another ceremony, and so we'd already organised a party to renew our vows, and so we still went ahead with it with his original ring. And so we just sort of do it every 7 years now. We kind of think that, that staves off the 7 year itch, and cycles of 7, although you could have...
Yeah, just wanted to ask, is there anything?
Oh, well, I'm just making it up, but, I'm owning it now.
It is.
7, well, you could do 9. Numerology's 9,
yeah,
but
that's
whatever,
that's true.
But, so we've had 4 weddings.
I'll tell my husband about that. We got married.
It's really nice though, because it does dovetail into the fact that I really do believe that you have to continue to regenerate a relationship
and upskilling and leveling.
And refresh and renew and just kind of reflect on it. I mean, we call our anniversary jokingly every year is our annual AGM. So we talk about it, and we check in on each other's goals and experience in the marriage, and how we want to be, and we affirm each other, and it's nice.
Wow,
it's not. I mean, you know, that's developed over the years, and it's a practice now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what I love. Let's talk a little bit about end of life, because that's like you, on the one side you like combine two hearts, and on the other side it's like letting one heart go, because it's already passed. But how did you get into that? I mean, you shared about your first.
Well, again, it's a kind of a mix of all sorts of pathways leading back to the same place. Again, it was when I was at university, the things that you would study in anthropology were the rites of passage in cultures, and that's birth, puberty, marriage, death, basically. And so I studied a lot of death rites as a natural part of life. And then I found myself experiencing a couple of really big, significant losses in my life, and they really shaped and changed me in terms of, well, one in particular was my stepfather's death, and it was a difficult death. It was he was in hospital and we weren't being told he was dying, and it was really fast and rapid, and there's many things I look back on that experience, and if I had the knowledge and the wisdom that I had now, I would have been able to hold and carry and guide my mum and my stepfather through that experience in a far gentler, safer way. We did our best at the time, and but that serves as a real kind of marking post for me, and it created a number of conversations afterwards about many people who really had quite rugged and brutal experiences around the death of loved ones. And then I was very intimately involved in journeying with my best friend through my godson's death. He had brain cancer, and he died at aged 8. And that was a profound event in my life, just personally, but also it translated again into a professional sort of pathway, and we did things really beautifully there in many ways. It was really brutal, emotional time, but I had more skills then to support my friend and to transition Jeremiah and hold a huge community that he belonged to in ceremony and ritual and ongoing mourning and commemorating of his life. And then it just kind of it grew from there. I always felt a real kind of drop and deepening into just an incredible space when I worked with families for funerals and memorials. It was a much just a totally different energy to working with couples preparing for their wedding. The energy is completely different, but it just drew on so many skills and like a really big skill set. And I found I could do it really well. It brought in the counselling, it brought in the chaplaincy, it brought in the ritual work, it brought in really high level communication skills and negotiation skills. Not every family meeting you walk into is full of harmony and love and simplicity. It's complex, really highly charged. All the different relationships that have been there in the family dynamic are on there in their most amplified way. And hearts are grieving, and people are in pain and hurting, and for some reason I feel really calm and fully resourced in that space. I feel that that's my my gift to give to families, and then from that, the understanding and knowledge that this can be done even better with preparation and planning and a real kind of pathway into death. You know, we don't need to be.
We don't know, but it's a journey of our spirit going to the next level.
Yeah, it really is. You know, not everyone dies unexpectedly and tragically, and most people's death is a progressive decline in unwellness or a chronic illness, or you know, we generally have time, we generally have preparation, and I have experienced and witnessed and worked with families where when families travel that together, when they prepare, when they talk, when they kind of adapt into the different phases and journey it together, when they have some preparation, when they are present with it, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's such a taboo in our world, yet in other countries it's celebrated, the Day of Death in Mexico, for example.
I know.
It's just a normal part of transition. It's just part of life.
Well, it's a very strange blip in modern history, because it's really been in the last 100 years that for some reason death has become sanitised, medicalised and professionalised. It's been taken away from families. We die in hospitals, plugged up to machines, away from our homes with our families not around us. You know, like the experience of my stepfather really not knowing what was going on, and no one saying the D word. And then they get whisked away by a funeral director, and you just really and
it's
you
not in your control. It's taken away from you.
And that's really quite a recent phenomenon. But prior to that, you would have people in your community who just like were the medicine people or the
like a wise person,
midwives. You'd have the person in your community that that's supported and helped you through end of life and death. And I mean, I really want to be that person for our community here on the coast, educating people around death.
Counselling already, or when it's kind of knocking on the door. As you say, it's not always like suddenly.
Giving people choices and pathways, being very transparent about all the different things they can do, and guiding them through them, and empowering them to step into as little or as much agency and capacity that they want, and it's a good thing. I'd really love. Can I do a call out
you
to
can.
the community?
Sure.
I'd really love if we could find a fabulous piece of land on the coast and put it in community trust and have a natural burial place and bring death back into the natural environment, if that's what people want. It's a far more environmentally friendly way to do it. We don't have spaces for lawn cemeteries anymore. They're not in perpetuity anymore. Cremation is an incredibly environmentally intense activity. You know, my ideal end of life outcome is to die at home, which is really hard for people to do. We need more community palliative care resources. Is to die at home, be beautifully shrouded and home at home, go to the Pearl Beach Arboretum and have an amazing kind of just outdoor kind of celebration, and then take me to some lovely piece of forest, put me in a shallow grave with wildflowers all over me. Oh, and my shroud will have mushroom spores on it, so that are flesh-eating mushrooms that'll just get rid of me really quickly
such a cool idea.
and enrich the soil and the earth. And no trace of me other than, you know, it's great topsoil to just regrow a forest. and after which everyone can go and have a fabo picnic down on the beach and jump into the ocean.
I love how you talk about it with the biggest smile on your face. I'd love to be there.
The only thing I'm really upset about is sometimes I come home from a really fabulous funeral and I'll go to my sons. I'll go, oh my God, you should have heard how the kids just did this amazing eulogy or tribute to their mum or their dad, and it was so moving and wonderful. What are you going to say about me?
What about?
And they go, oh,
I
might have to because
maybe just a birthday celebration, a proper ceremony around
they
the birthday.
don't want to talk at my funeral. They're not going to say anything. It's just like I'm horrified. So I'm on the record again, boys. better step up.
Write a goodbye letter already now.
I'll do one of those videos. If you're watching this video, I have died. And I'll do my own.
Here you have some pre-scripts you can change if you like.
I write those letters to your family. Open when I'm
that's right.
But changing the subject if I can.
Yeah.
Who are some people in your life that have been very inspirational to you?
My
Some
mum.
teachers or
my mum.
Yeah.
I think she's watching.
Sarah's mum.
I told her to watch. She's just my hero. She is my wise, beautiful mentor mum. You know, I mean, what can I say? She's just the best. I steal all her clothes, although I don't. Oh yeah, that's actually hers.
Is she local too?
No, she's down in Freshwater in the Northern Beaches.
So it's close.
It's close.
She's just always been my role model. She's amazingly smart. She's beautiful and funky. She's spiritual. She, after my stepfather died, she retrained herself as a energy healer.
Wow.
You know, she's just incredible, my mum. I love her deeply, and she's a very important person in my life. I probably ring her daily, if not twice daily. So she doesn't let me talk about her death, but when she dies, I'm going to be a right mess. But she knows that. But then I also think that Mum and I have eked out, like, every corner of our relationship and had so much joy with each other. I think I'd be complete, you know. I just, you know, I don't regret or wish for more from my mum. She's just the best. I've got a really beautiful circle of women that are very important to me. They know who they are, which is a really special thing, particularly because when I was at school, I was bullied. And this happened in primary school. In particular, I was really excised and ostracised by the mean girls, the popular girls, and I used to just hang out with the boys, right? Because they were nice to me.
Yeah.
They were my friends, and then that just infuriated the popular mean girls even more. So and then when I went to high school, I had just a really very small group of, or, you know, less than on one hand, of girls that I could really kind of just trust and call my friends. I was really mistrustful of that female friendships realm for a really long time and confused by it. And it took me a long time. Like my girlfriend who I talked about, who was the mother of my godson, is still my best friend forever. But I met her at university, and that's where my really deep, chosen, trusted friendships really started to be curated, and I was really careful for a long time, and I probably still am with my friendships and my really kind of inner circle. But I have a rich and beautiful inner circle, and it makes me cry because those girls mean so much to me. They really do. I don't think they know how much, actually. Now I'm crying.
That is strong.
Yeah.
It's holding you.
Yeah, and I really, many years ago, just relaxed and surrendered into trusting that, and it's just amazing. Yeah, so again, you know, very just sort of insular, the people really near me. I absolutely adore my husband. He's a great man. And but if I was to take my sort of gaze wider, who inspire me, I don't know. Anyone who's just being brave about being themselves. Anyone being brave about being themselves, or braving into their frailties and their vulnerabilities and willing to grow. You know, I always am amazed by my couples who come in here for therapy, or my individuals who come in here for coaching. Their bravery, you know, I think that takes great brave. To just...
Is there a stigma around counselling? Like when, you know, people often don't say they're going to counselling. It's not like a spoken thing that you would say.
I think so. And I wish not. And I wish that people came earlier before things were crisis. That's what I like about the coaching model. The coaching model came out many years ago. You know, everyone's a life coach now, which is okay, it's fine. But the coaching model in practice is really about partnering with someone. It's and empowering them with resources and giving them the agency to choose the direction of their growth and enrichment. It's a real growing and enriching kind of model of development and sort of, I suppose, personal wellness. And I really like that model because, you know, even with counselling, it kind of presupposes there's something wrong or broken about people, and there's not. There's not. We all have our little shadows and jaggedy bits and woundy wounds that, you know,
sometimes
do a little bit of
exactly. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So what's the wedding that stands out for you? Like,
apart from all of mine.
All of yours, exactly.
What was one that was very extra, like something that stands out, that was a bit out there, or that was unique? I don't know.
There have been so many. I really can't do that. It's just usually the most recent ones are still kind of percolating out of my system. I'm still filled with the you know, that warm glow of joy and love. I just married Nat and Monty last weekend up at Fingal Bay, and that was amazing. And I married Loz and Trit the weekend before, and they had a gorgeous ceremony at Fice Creek Winery. And
beautiful.
And I just, they're all beautiful. They're all, I mean, I don't want to pick out any one in particular, but because they all stand out in a way, because each couple is unique, and it's the only wedding they're having together, you know. And
maybe you should offer a subscription model every 7 years.
Every 7 years?
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, it was really special. Before we started filming, we were talking about marriage equality, and I did a commitment ceremony for Kat and Evie 12 years ago.
Wow.
And they've had their 3 children, and then last year I legally married them.
Oh gosh.
And you know, I that's really special to me. You know, I kind of I get really thrilled and excited of marrying the couples that have been together a long time as well. That's really affirming.
You'll see them, how they've changed and grown.
We've been together 20 years that we've decided to finally get married, and I think, wow, that's bloody amazing. And all their children are there, and you know, I don't know, they're all good. They're all good. They're all more than good. They're all bloody wonderful. You know, I just I think it's a real privilege. I get to immerse into all of that love and joy and families and celebration and just hope and faith. There's a lot of energetic bloody goodness going on that zings when you're in the ceremony.
Exactly, your eyes are like every time you're talking about it, it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like there are people pouring their heart out and you get to witness it and help them.
I say often when I'm beginning ceremonies that you know, this is one of the most intimate and honest moments of this couple's life, and it's a real privilege for us to be here in witness to that. And it's this, and when you're in good ceremony, it's not a passive kind of just watching this couple in the front get married. I engage everyone there and task them with the role that it's your presence here, it's your witnessing, it's you feeling this and seeing this couple in front of you transformed in front of your eyes anew. They're going to be husband and wife. They're going to be wife and wife, or husband and husband. They'll be married. You know, they're taking their relationship up a notch, and they're doing that with you.
They invited them.
And it's your presence here that makes it happen. I don't often do elopements. Or, you know, secret aside weddings. My mum,
she didn't much there.
Yeah, she's not perfect. One thing she did do was she eloped with my stepfather. We were all gutted, or I was gutted. We were really hurt by that. Because, you know, my belief about marriage is it is a community building activity too, and it's and even though it's about the couple, that couple is invited you to their wedding because you're the chosen community that surround them, that support them, that's arrived them to that, that's going to hold them in togetherness, you know, that have, you know, so it's not an act of exclusion paradoxically, it's an act of inclusion, inviting all those people there who may or may not know each other before. I say, well, get to know each other, because the invitation is to tighten the thread of community around this couple. Be that next layer out, supporting them and being ongoing witness to their development as a couple. So it's a community endeavour. The whole guest and bridal party and family cross a threshold. It's in them seeing their friends and family get married that kind of just that subtle pivot, shift and change happens, you know, that you know, just the next notch and loop on the kind of knitting of
the thread
life and love.
And they were part of that. Yeah. How would you, because I hear a lot of community and ceremony, how do you think, like on the Central Coast, how can private household, but also as a community, how can we bring more ceremony into our lives?
Well,
it's a very broad.
It is, yeah. Well, I notice, and I've been a part of a few like circles that have emerged. So people are feeling empowered to just pop up and create sacred circle and ceremony. It's not, you don't have to have a celebrant leading a ceremony. It's actually a very instinctive skill. We've all got this. We all know if we give ourselves half a chance and permission how to hold space, how to do something with just a bit of reverence and love and beauty and creativity and just presence, you know. So So I've noticed that a lot of circles are cropping up all over the place, whether that's combined men and women's circles or sister circles. I'm in a sister circle. I've led other sister circles. There's all sorts of ceremonies going on. I've noticed down in South Umina Beach there's full moon gatherings now happening. Even things like brackets and jam that happen every full moon on the Friday. There's already that kind of infrastructure of community and little hubs that happen. Perhaps just becoming more mindful of just setting an intention for something.
Yeah, going back to that sacred space.
Yeah.
To it belonging.
Yeah.
To other people.
Yeah, I think ceremony is there's some simple principles, and that's about setting an intention. It's about creating that sort of belonging and recognition of all that are there and what you're there to do. And bringing a sense of purpose and
why
and practice to it. It's really not that hard.
From it too, like peace, healing,
prayer. I am, it was really honed in my time when I was at the hospital doing pastoral care and the chaplaincy work, that I developed a prayer practice. And I did have in the beginnings of my teen years a religious kind of lifestyle. I went to an Anglican girls' school, and I wanted to become a minister. I looked at the minister, then I want to do that job. I like leading assembly and prayers and that kind of stuff, and didn't realise that it wasn't available to me as a woman. And and then I very quickly exited out of the Anglican church when I found boys and bands and booze. Oops. But I really like the practice of prayer, and even in my ceremony work and in my funeral work as well, I reintroduce a sort of a prayer, which I call a secular prayer or a non-religious prayer, because I think prayer is a healing practice, one that I do daily just for my own self-care or I find it's an easier pathway for me into meditation than others. Prayer is simply words of comfort and presence and connection and thanks and clarifying your thoughts to really distill yourself into the emotion that you're feeling or the need that you have, or it's a really wonderful practice. And you don't have to pray within the framework and belief of a religious institution or denomination, but if you do, great, you've got a whole vast reserve of resources there that can lead and guide you in many, many beautiful prayers. But I make up prayers. I had to when I was on ward as a chaplain. I had to sit down with a patient and listen and talk to them, and sometimes because I didn't know I was a non-religious chaplain, and if prayer or faith, they had a faith and they wanted to pray, I'd just make up a prayer on the spot and pray with them.
That's all the person wants, and to hear.
Yeah. And so, prayer is healing words, it's soothing words, it's calming words, it gives you pause to connect and recognise that you're held in a divine energy, of life and of love. There's a divine intelligence, I think, of some sort to our lives. So prayer. How do we go on to that?
Good question. Community.
Healing. Because prayer's a healing.
Yeah.
I can't do yoga for someone else. I can't eat good food for someone else, but I can pray for them.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that energy is tangible, I believe. And that if you do it in more than, one, if 3 people pray, that's 3 times, or I think it probably exponentiates the energy and the power. It's laser beam intention of love to someone else, and of wellness, and of healing. The high frequencies. It's got to be doing something.
And with the mum who's our own energy healer, there is a lot of energy boiling there, I can see.
So your mum's influenced you into that, do you think, growing up with your mum?
She's going to kill me if she's watching.
We don't have to. I just
My mum.
She'll love you more.
She was so ahead of her time. She was doing nude yoga, sun salutes before ever it was popular and a fad.
Go mum.
Go mum. She's always been a seeker, and
So it's with such an open-minded yet religious upbringing.
My parents were religious. They just sent me to a good school, which was Anglican. Which just kind of spoke to me for a while.
And I mean, it's kind of similar to what you're doing now, just without a cover of religion on top of it. It's just pure spirituality. You just take the levels away.
That's that spiral curve and turn that really never takes you very far from the core of what you. Yeah, I know. I do reflect on that. Well, in some ways, I have my own parish. I've got this big community of many hundreds of couples I've married, and families I've worked with in end of life and funerals, and babies I've named, and it's like my parish.
Yeah.
Central Coast Parish. The Diocese of Saratoga's Life.
Yeah.
Yes. So without scandal, without the.
You just focus on the ceremony. You leave the scandal to them. So along those spirals, what was there that you had to unlearn to get closer to your core? I mean, a little bit of a detour.
But there were,
Yeah, I know. I haven't quite unlearned them all. Look, every now and then I have a wobble and I think, I've got to go and get the degree in that. Right? Or get the piece of paper. Prove my worth and value, right? And I've kind of just stopped myself on that. I went looking a while back to do a Masters of Wellness, and it was 28 grand, and I looked at the modules and I went, I already do all of that. I'll just be doing it just to put the degree up on the wall, and no one would look at it except for me.
And they're in here.
I do have some degrees, but I've got to stop. So sometimes, and I think that comes from just every now and then a little inner wobble of worthiness, and I've got to stop and again go, you know what, Sarah, you've had 15 years experience. You've got a whole life. You authentically live what you teach, what you learn, what you know. Fuck, trust that.
Yeah.
Okay?
And because it is a fine balance. It is a fine balance between I need education and at the beginning. It was, I guess, helpful, but where do I stop?
Yeah, so, I think that's a little bit ego, that's a little bit, all which, human.
Part of us.
So I have to just, sometimes it's got to trust myself.
Yeah.
And when I don't listen to my instinct and my gut, or sometimes when I'm in a counselling or therapy session and I want to just deviate into intuition, and I let my couples and my clients know this, and go, look, I'm just getting an intuitive hit here. If it's way off the mark. Just reject this. But would you be interested to just hear what I think's coming through, and it's just coming, and I'll frame it like that, and more often than not, it's bang on.
I bet.
But just trusting that, I still forget to, or I doubt, you know, and you know, just got to continue to kind of build my own internal muscle. There.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Train yourself. And with that framing, I mean, how beautiful. Look, I get this intuition. I have no clue if that makes any sense to you. Let me just. And then you can tell me. And if it then resonates, what a gift. Imagine you would not have said it.
So, and sometimes I'll just get this guidance to ask a question that really just comes from left field. And it just then opens up a whole pathway of discussion and information that becomes, you know, the aha moment. So I suppose just trusting, you know, because I'm so head-driven sometimes. You know, I'm a real thinker. I love getting information, and I will analyse, and I'll think, and just dropping into heart space, dropping into gut, bigger, so I should listen to it. Just trusting that, you know, more and more. And I think that, you know, I'll be 50 in a couple of years. I think I'm legitimately hitting crone-wise woman, you know, demographics. So
very valued in our community.
Definitely.
One last question, because I wanted to ask this to Jake, but I didn't, is what book are you reading now?
Oh, what book am I'm so embarrassed. I'm not reading a book at the moment.
That's okay.
Okay, what's your number one recommendation?
What's a book that's really stood out for you then?
Well, do you want fiction or non-fiction? Oh, can I tell you my favourite movie? I've just
Go with that.
I just watched it. It's a couple of years old, but it was a really profound, delightful movie. Captain Fantastic.
Oh yes.
I did not watch that.
Yeah, you've got to watch.
I got to watch it.
Thank you. Yeah, Captain Fantastic.
Captain Fantastic
was really good. I actually am rereading a book at the moment. I'm dipping in and out of, and that is Carolyn Mace's Entering the Castle.
You were talking about.
Yeah, I've read that.
Well,
I read that once before, or I remember reading it and giving up halfway, which tells you I'm not ready to learn this lesson yet. She's an amazing teacher.
Just one thing, because I think this is just amazing. You said like you just stopped at halfway because it was not the right timing, and so often in our culture I find like everybody's pushing through and reading, even though it's just like it's not right yet. It's but like understanding that intuition. I picked it up again
later, like years later, and you know in a book every sentence is speaking to you. Every sentence. I was, mind you, in TP with my dear friend Meadow. You know, so we're travelling a journey together at the moment. So I was in a very different energetic space as we prepare her end of life journey. And so Entering the Castle by Carolyn Mace, she's an amazing spiritual teacher. She teaches in archetypes. She's a mystic of the highest order. She is a real mystic. And it's all about how you harness the power of your soul. Right?
Whoa.
I know! That's deep, hey? So we go from Captain Fantastic to quite Entering the Castle. And again, she's a real advocate for prayer. And so it's a real excavation to your soul. It's very harrowing a little bit. You've just got to kind of brutally shred your ego and your pride and your all those kind of layers that are barriers to you. Really entering
none
your
of that at
soul.
all. So pure.
Yeah. And sorry, that's what I'm rereading.
Oh wow!
That sounds like a beautiful beach book. Very soothing, maybe leaning against a tree.
I'm so deep. I'm so deep. and then I bounce back into Netflix with my glass of wine. Oh, and watch Russian Doll on Netflix. Oh my god, that's amazing.
One of them. It's great. It's a groundhog.
Yes.
Yes, she dies continually, but differently each time.
Okay,
I know. That
someone dies
continues.
Oh, hang on, they say death in the description. Let's
Yeah, I mean.
How beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you,
so much.
To you.
Wow.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yes.
Hope there's someone on the other end of that.
We'll find out.
We might cut out. We might just be.
We have no idea. We have no idea.
Stuck with the wall.
That is so
No, it looks like, yep.